I was halfway up the mountain. Fog all around. The peak completely gone. And in my head, that voice kicked in. Turn around. There's no light, no view, no point. But I kept going because I've learned the most powerful moments often hide behind the clouds. Not before the storm, not after it, but right in the middle. This is the story of the photo I almost didn't take. And if you've ever felt like giving up on a shoot because of the weather, stay with me. This one's for you. Hey, I'm Albrecht Voss, architectural photographer and Hasselblad master. This series takes you behind the scenes of how I created ENLIGHTEN, a fine art project shot in the Alps using a prototype of the Hasselblad X2D. If you missed the last episode on my ultimate travel kit, watch it after this one. Now, let's get into today's story. Even though we had spent the night at the Mangard Pass Road to recover, our legs were still feeling the strain from our first hike to Bivacco. When we arrived at our second location in the Julischen Alps, I knew we were in for another serious climb. This time, it was the Bivacco Luca Vuerich, a hut I hadn't picked for its architectural design, but because of its insane location, right on the edge of the nehme ridge in the Italian Alps. The mountain panorama from up there had been too tempting to leave off the road. Down at the parking lot, we were welcomed by a bright blue sky and warm summer temperatures. But looking up, we saw something that instantly reminded us of the previous shoot. The entire ridge around the hut was once again swallowed in thick, stubborn clouds. And we knew this hike wouldn't be easy either. First, a steep ascent through the alpine meadows. Then a climb through exposed rock to reach the hut. Every excuse ran through my head. The hut's not even that special. We've got so many other locations ahead of us, and the weather is clearly not playing along. But if there is one thing I've learned from countless shoots in the mountains, it's this. Weather up here changes constantly. So we shouldered our 18-kilogram backpacks and started hiking. Past grazing cows and wild mountain goats, the trail wound higher until we reached the dramatic ridge of nehme. On the northern side, the cliffs dropped hundreds of meters straight down into the valley. The next section took us into a narrow gully. No ropes, just small trail markings painted onto the rock. The higher we climbed, the more I noticed something was off. My footing was unsteady. My hands were shaking. That's not normal. Markus and I have done this kind of alpine tour for over 10 years. Was it the heavy gear, the exposure of the trail, or just the pressure of the photo series? The further we got, the harder it became to take that next step. And for the first time in a long time, I felt afraid. So we slowed down. We had started early and the hut was still wrapped in the clouds anyway. One foot in front of the other, one turn at a time. That was my only goal. With frayed nerves and legs like jelly, I finally reached the plateau of the ridge. And guess what? The thick cloud that looked like a wall from the valley was actually just brushing over the very top of the mountain. Above us, the sun kept breaking through, casting this incredible dramatic light across the whole scene. It's kind of wild how quickly your mindset can shift. The moment I had my Hasselblad in hand and took the first shot of Bivacco Luca Vuerich, the fear started to melt away. These steep cliffs that had seemed so intimidating just minutes earlier, suddenly manageable. I just couldn't stop shooting. Freed from the tension and without the weight of the full pack, I was hopping over the rocks like a mountain goat, chasing the best angle for my ENLIGHTEN photo. I already knew this location would be tricky for a night shot. The hut is surrounded by drop-offs on 3 sides, each one dropping hundreds of meters down. Add to that the fast-moving fog that kept rolling in and out, covering the view. So I tested a few angles and settled on 2 safe shooting positions. One close to the hut and another a bit farther out on the ridge. And from that point on, I kept my camera with me at all times. Because in conditions like this, things change in an instant. And sometimes you've only got seconds to catch the shot. If you're enjoying that video, hit that like button. It really helps me keep creating more content like this for you. And if you don't want to miss the next episode, where I dive into the topic of how to overcome cluttered locations, make sure to subscribe now. After capturing a dramatic blue hour with stunning cloud formations, it was time to wait again for the clouds to disappear. And once again, we weren't alone in the hut. That afternoon, another hiker had joined us. He watched our photo obsession unfold with a mix of fascination and amusement. We passed the time over hot tea, soup, and swapping tips about other alpine locations with beautiful architecture. No phone signal, no distractions, just real conversations. Every 15 minutes, I'd crack the hut door open to check the weather. We had already placed both tripods at their shooting spots, weighted down with rocks to keep them from flying off the cliff. And the Hasselblad was ready to snap in at a moment's notice. And finally, at 9 p.m. the moment arrived. As temperatures dropped, the clouds began to clear. That's something I've seen often in the mountains. Post-sunset, things can change fast. So if you're hoping to shoot astrophotography in bad weather, don't give up too early. What looks hopeless can turn stunning within an hour. Pro tip: when I shoot in the mountains, I always try to sleep right at my location. It saves me energy of long, exhausting hikes in the dark, gives me more rest, and lets me keep an eye on changing weather conditions throughout the night. While Marcos positioned the Aperture MC LEDs, I stood just a meter from the cliff's edge and triggered the Hasselblad X2D with the 21mm lens. Wide enough to frame the Bivacco Luca Vuerich under a pristine alpine sky. For our second night shot, we had to wait a little longer. I checked in the PhotoPills app and knew the Milky Way would rise right above the hut between 4 and 5 a.m. So we got a couple of hours sleep before heading back out into the freezing cold. Conditions were good, just a few wisps of cloud hanging in the sky. We gave it our all. Light painting, multiple exposures, but still, the composition wasn't ideal. From that angle, the hut looked more like a box. There were no leading lines, no visual rhythm to carry the viewer's eye. I had already suspected this location might be a tough one to shoot well. But we gave it everything we had anyway. After another hour of power napping, we headed back out just before sunrise. As clouded as the previous day had been, we never expected conditions like this. With the XCD 90V lens, I started pulling out some stunning details from the glowing red and orange alpine landscape. Then it was time to unpack the mini Hasselblad, the DJI Mavic 2 Pro, and finally break free from the limitations of the steep cliffs around us. Untethered and fearless, the drone hovered over the deep gorges, finally letting me frame the Bivacco Luca Vuerich exactly the way I'd envisioned, perched at the edge of the cliffs with a breathtaking mountain backdrop in all its glory. Once every battery was drained and every granola bar was eaten, it was time to say goodbye to the Bivacco Luca Vuerich. Probably the most modest hut nestled into one of the most epic views of our entire journey. As my frozen hands clung to the cold rock on our way down, I couldn't help but ask myself, did I get the images I came here for? Would I have regretted turning around the day before just because of a cloud-covered summit and spending an evening in the valley instead? Absolutely. Yes, we had to fight through the wind, cold and low visibility. Clouds kept sweeping over our scene, hiding the shot just as it was about to appear. But those were the conditions that made this one of the most memorable shots of the entire tour. Bad weather adds drama, depth and atmosphere. It reminds us of nature's power, and that sense of awe becomes part of the image. Still, when conditions are challenging but manageable, I can only encourage you to stay out and stick with it. Because in moments that seem hopeless, the perfect light might just be hours, minutes, or seconds away. Want to master fine art photography or get the most out of your Hasselblad system? Check out my photography tips and one-to-one online workshops at albrechtvoss.com. You can own a limited edition fine art print from this series, available on my website as well. And if you haven't already, make sure to sign up for my VIP Club newsletter for exclusive content, early access to new workshops, and a free monthly wallpaper download. Like this episode, there's more coming. In the next episode of Behind the Shot Hasselblad Masters in the Alps, I'll show you how I isolated my subject in one of the busiest locations of my trip. Now I'd love to hear from you. What's your most memorable bad weather photo moment? Let's chat in the comments down below. Until then, have fun shooting and see you next time.